Welcome back to the Pageant project, guys. For those of you watching, I apologize for the cat. I was about to start recording, and then, as cats love to do, as soon as I was about to hit this record button, he decided to walk in the background and start meowing and be an absolute pain. And the only way to shut him up was by carrying him. And now there's fluff going all over the place because it's molting season, because it's getting hot here in Australia. Anyway, if you're listening to this, by the way, because I know a lot of you are listening and you don't actually watch, you can watch the video version at our website, thepageantproject.com, and then you get to see the cat, who's now, because I'm on camera now, he's being a pain. I'm going to put him down, and I bet you within about 30 seconds he's going to start making sound again. Anyway, cats love to be annoying. I wanted to give you guys an insight into some of the mock interviews that I did with the Miss USA, Miss Teen USA girls. I had the privilege of, I think I had about 10 of them book in, which was a lot more than I was expecting. I thought maybe I'd get one if I was lucky. And I say lucky because I think it's a privilege to work with anyone who's at the top of their field, top of the game. And when it comes to pageantry, no matter which way you feel about Miss USA or other systems, there's no denying that Miss USA is at the top of the pageantry ladder, so to speak. And I put out, I don't know if you saw on social media. So on social media, I said, look, I'm offering free mock interviews for Miss USA and Miss Teen USA contestants because, Tom Brodeur took over, and I'd interviewed Tom the week before he took over. And I just felt like, well, I feel optimistic about pageantry for the first time in a long time. And I want to help support the girls in the system. And so I made that offer, and I had 10 book in. I think it was about 10 anyway, mainly Miss, but there were a good few, teen USA contestants as well. And the cat's headbutting me. I told you, didn't I? He won something and he won't tell me what. This is the thing with cats. They just keep headbutting you. It might surprise you to learn, and I've been doing some reflection on this over the past sort of 72 hours. It might surprise you to learn that the mock interviews were not mock interviews at all. And it didn't come as a complete surprise to me. And when I say there weren't mock interviews, I'll give you an example. So there's one Miss USA contestant who had a mock interview with me. To be completely clear, she's a very good friend of mine, and she's been in the pageant industry forever, and she's probably one of the favorites to win. And I really hope she does. We always have our personal favorites. I still think pageant hot picks are the devil's work, but we can all have our personal favorites to win. That being said, she had mentioned to me that she would love to do a mock interview with me even before I made the offer. And that's because we've known each other for a long time. I have a lot of respect for her. I like to think she has a lot of respect for me and what I do. And when I go into a session, and I've said this, not even just alluded to it, but I've said this many, many times. For me, when I go into a pageant coaching session, and by the way, yes, I do pageant coaching. I realize this is my fault. I haven't expressed this clearly enough, but I do pageant coaching. I had someone reach out to me and say, "Do you do mock interview?" Like, yes, I do all of it. I need to get better at wording this, by the way, and showing this on my social media. So that's on me. It's not on you guys. And I am doing that as part of the rebrand now that we've launched the Beginner's Guide to Pageantry. The whole idea behind that was rebranding and going more into the coaching space. I will always do interview, though, by the way, because that's how I network, and I love getting to hear people's stories. But yes, I do coaching. I had someone. So these sessions always begin with me wanting to find out exactly what's going on and exactly what value I can give. And I said this to all the Miss USA and Miss Teen USA girls, because when I was making the offer and when I was actually doing the sessions, some of them, you have to understand, were leaving in 24 hours or 48 hours. Like, this was a last minute offer, just came to me. And I had people booking in who were leaving for Miss USA and at USA Now as we speak. And they were leaving in 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours. So it didn't leave us a lot of time. And so I would get on the call with all of these girls because they're all state finalists, right? They're not just people who've fallen off the Apple truck somewhere. These are all girls who are now in Reno representing their state. I think they just had the state competition, the state costume competition. And so even more so than usual, I said to them, I said, look, your time, Paul, I don't want to waste your time. And we can certainly go into mock interview. I can ask you questions. I can ask you difficult questions if that's what you want, because some of them wanted me to deliberately try to trip them up, because many of them, they're at the top of the game, right? And so they want the difficult ones, not the easy ones. And I really respect that. But I just said, look, we can do that. But I just want to know, you reach out to me, you book with me, you probably have some understanding what I do, what my strengths are, and what I stand for. So you got to let me know, like, what's the biggest difference I can make with you right now in the half hour or 1 hour that we have. And if it's mock interview, great. But if it's something else, let me know. And it was really interesting. So my friend, who I know really well, she's been working for this forever. It's been her legitimate dream for as long as I've known her. And so guess what? The girl's prepared for everything. She's on point with everything. She's working her butt off, and she would be amazing, be an amazing Miss USA, but also represent USA amazingly at Miss Universe. And so I said to her, look, and by the way, they're doing things a little bit differently. I think I can talk about this now because, Miss USA is happening. It's hardly a trade secret. But you might think that, and I thought this, that they were giving paperwork in. They give the paperwork to the judges, and the judges base their questions off the paperwork. They're not doing that this year. They're doing it off videos. And by now, I'm sure you've seen some of the videos, and they have to be 90 seconds long, and they're direct to camera pieces, and it's like a personal mission statement or personal advertisement for you, but in video form. And a lot of the girls found that a bit not, well, they found it surprising, but some of them loved it, I'm sure. Some of them found it a little bit off-putting because it was unexpected, but I liked it, for me personally, because video and social media, it's the way of the world. And so I do think you need to better present yourself well on video. But I got on with this friend of mine, and she was talking about, okay, how the video threw her for a bit of a loop. And then she said, I'd love you to give me questions that, you would think would trip me up. And I started doing that, but she was so good at answering them, even like the ones that you should never get asked in a pageant interview. And I said to her, look, we can keep going, but I don't want to flog a dead horse, and I don't want to keep going and pick at you until you start thinking there is a problem. You're ready. And I said, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're ready, aren't you? And you could see her take a moment to think. And then she said, yeah, I guess I am. And really, what the big thing for her was not doing more mock interview, but it was, I mean, obviously we're friends, but it was more me sort of confirming to her that she'd done all the work. She'd done all the work anyone could possibly expect, all the preparation. And now it simply wasn't up to her anymore. Like, who the judges pick, sometimes it doesn't matter how much work you do. It wasn't up to her anymore. And I said, whether you win or lose, there are people around you who love you and respect you. But it's scary at the moment because now you've got to let go because you can't do anymore. And she said, you're so right. She said, when you want something so much and you're almost climbing up to the top of the hill, and now you're scared because you're so close to the top, and now you might see over it for the first time. I said, like, look, I get that. But let's be real. You don't need to do any more practice. I get, like, you want to stay in the groove. Absolutely. But you don't need me to try and trip you up anymore. You don't need me to, try and give you the criticism because you're ready. You've been preparing for this for so long. And you know what you're doing because you've been in this industry for so long. So I said, go home. I love you. Go home, get some sleep. And then it turns out she was going to be up at at midnight to be doing walk coaching because her walk coach was in a different time zone. But that was one instance. And you might say, oh, okay, Adrian, that's different because that was a friend of yours. And yes, but no, all of the other sessions followed a very similar path. So there was another Miss Contestant who I was helping with mock. And one of the things that came out was that, and this wasn't what she was aware of, by the way. What I mean, I asked her a few questions to get warmed up. And again, it was the same thing of, I want you to ask me really difficult questions. And she also said she hadn't really gotten useful feedback, not just telling her, yes, you're great, but actual, like, what can I improve on? Which I thought was interesting because I wouldn't want to take on a coach that couldn't give me any feedback because otherwise, what's the point? I don't want someone to just tell me, yes, everything you're doing is great, it's perfect, and I have no feedback for you. But I could tell all my sessions begin, it's not like a fact-finding mission. And I could tell the first few questions, she hadn't really warmed up, but then when she got in the flow, the fourth or fifth question, then she was going, and it was a completely different person. She was warm, she was animated, she was nailing it. And I said to her, I said, "Look, you're answering different now. It feels to me like you're an athlete who's warmed up." And I said, "What's that about?" She said, "Yeah, that's me. I often, the fourth or fifth question, that's when I hit my stride." And they invented, she said they invented warm up routines for people like me. And I said to her, I was like, "Okay, that's great." So she had known that, but she hadn't mentioned this at the beginning, which is my point. And I said, "How are you going to make sure?" Because by the time you get to the fourth or fifth question in a Miss USA interview, which is about maybe 3 to 5 minutes long this year, so by the time you get to question five, you might be out of there. It might be interview over. So how are we going to make sure that you get into there and you're warmed up? And she was saying, and this is where as a coach and as a life coach, as a strategist, I lean into the things you're already doing and comfortable because I know that you're smart enough to have thought of this and have planned ahead. It's my job to help you by leaning into your strengths, right? So I knew she would have done something. She said, "Yeah, I get my." So she said she goes on to the bathroom. She gets on a phone call with her mum as an example, and her mum will give her interview questions, and she'll be answering them in the bathroom. She said she didn't care if anyone else heard it, and I said, "Look, that's great, but have you heard of ChatGPT?" And you could just see her again. It's one of those moments where she goes, "Oh yeah," and I said, "Voice mode," and she went, "Oh yeah, I just used that last week, but I never thought of using the voice mode on ChatGPT to practice interview." And by the way, if you don't know, I'm flogging a dead horse at this point. I keep telling you guys, use ChatGPT's voice mode to do mock interview because it will generate questions for you. It can generate questions off your bio. It can give you feedback, all of that, and it's like $20 a month. It might be even free at this point, but it's $20 a month versus $200 an hour. Calling myself out because that's what I charge. But for her, it was just pointing out that one thing. I could see she's great at interviewing. She answers really well, especially for someone who's relatively new to pageants. But the one hiccup that she might have is that she hadn't warmed up before she got in. And so I just pointed at the chat GPT thing. But again, it's not about mock interview, is it? I was only able to give her that solution because of my interest in AI and how much I've worked with that. So it's my knowledge about disparate field and bringing that to this coaching session. And one of the frustrations I have with many pageant coaches is all they know is pageant, 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 which if you won that, that's great. But when it comes to someone like myself and other coaches who are out there, I know this is the same. I have my background in life coaching. That's my qualification, and tennis coaching. And by the way, over 10 years working with young women because I was a head coach at an all girls high school. I used to work in IT. I very interested in AI, work with it all the time. And so I bring, and look, over 350 probably close to 400 pageant interviews now. All of that gives me a lot of experience from different people. And I bring all of that to a coaching session. But it's not just a mock interview. Even though I said mock interview, people put their hand up, get into the mock interview. It's not a mock interview. I had an interview with an amazing Teen USA state title holder. And I was getting the girls to send me those videos that I mentioned, those 90-second videos, so I could get a feel beforehand. Because it's like, I would normally say, send me your bio, and so I can ask questions about that. But this year they're doing it based on the video. So I said, well, send me your video. And she sent me her video. And this girl, she's young, she's 18, but she has so much energy and she's so vivacious. And she'd be an absolutely amazing Teen USA. And then I got on the phone with her and got on the call with her. And what I was saying to her, I could immediately tell. And by the way, I'm not going to give myself a lot of credit for this. I could immediately tell that she was a perfectionist. She was very hard on herself. And that's almost a given. And anyone who's achieved, I think almost at this stage, anyone who's achieved at a high level, you have that inner perfectionist streak. And it's hard for you to feel proud about yourself, right? And so I clued onto this pretty quickly. And I said to her, I said, okay, rather than looking at this, because she was saying, oh, imposter syndrome. And I said, oh, that's interesting because you're the only person who's ever struggled with imposter syndrome, aren't you? And she said, yeah. And I said, that was a joke. And she had a laugh. And look, and then I asked her, like, what benefits has imposter syndrome given you? Not drawbacks, but what benefits has it given you? And she said, oh, nothing. And I said, hang on. Really think about this, right? Imposter syndrome. So you're never really sure whether you deserve to be there or not because you're afraid of being found out. So now tell me what that does to your work ethic. And you could see her, 'cause she's only 18, but you could see the wheels begin to turn. And she's begun to get, it's like, oh, yeah, like, oh, that's why I work so hard. And so I got her to see the benefits of the imposter syndrome. And then the whole point was that if you can see the benefits of the imposter syndrome, it's not something that necessarily needs to be fixed because it has given you benefits. And so it's very difficult to let go of something when it's been giving you benefits, even though it might have drawbacks. So with imposter syndrome, it's very hard to feel at peace or to feel proud of yourself. But I said, rather than making that part of you feel wrong, acknowledge that it's given you immense benefits. So it's like talking to your brain. And I said this, I said, have a conversation with your brain and say, thank you, brain. I understand that you are making me feel a bit insecure at this moment. And that's because you want me to work harder and that's because you want what's best for me. But brain, I've got this. And so I was pointing this out to her. And I also point blank asked her, when's the last time that you felt proud of yourself? And this was kind of heartbreaking or very moving because you could see 18-year-olds in general aren't very good at hiding their emotions. And she's a very emotional person, like on her face. And you could see that it had been a while and it wasn't something that she was comfortable doing, feeling proud of herself. And I said to her, it's like, yeah, because you feel that if you're proud of yourself, that you're going to slack off. And that if you're feeling comfortable, you're not driving yourself hard enough, right? And that's why I look for confirmation all the time. I'll tell people, tell me where I'm wrong. Normally, they will tell me I'm not wrong, that I'm right. But I want to know. I never want to assume. And you could see all these sort of new understandings forming on this young girl's face as she began to understand herself at a different level. And I said, here's what I want you to do. Understand you're ready. You have an amazing energy. I can get that from your video. You're a hardworking person. You're an amazing person. The only thing that's going to trip you up is you getting in your own way. And so what I want you to do, affirmations, all that sort of stuff, have on your phone wallpaper that, I am ready, or every day and everywhere I'm getting stronger and stronger, or I am Miss Teen USA, I am Miss USA, whatever it is. Put that on your wallpaper, sticky notes all over your mirror, all that stuff. But I said, I need you to look into the mirror and say to yourself, I'm proud of you. And I just stopped after I said that and said, because I could see that it made her uncomfortable, but the eyes go wide, almost like you're going to cry. And I said to her, how would that make you feel? And I'll give her a lot of credit for this. She really thought about it, and she said, yeah, that would feel pretty good. And I said, to make you feel uncomfortable as well. And she said, yeah. But I said, that's why you got to do it. Because that's where the comfort, that's what we say, the cliche, growth is always at the edge of our comfort zone, but it's very, very true. And so that was her homework, was to surround herself with the positive affirmations, the incantations, all that stuff, but just to look in the mirror and say, I'm proud of you, and to get comfortable sitting with that. And so again, was it a mock interview? I leave that up to you. But this is a very well-known pageant girl. She has a lot of followers on social media, a lot more than I do. And so, but what really struck me was she said at the end, like, where have you been all my life? Which is immensely gratifying to me. And again, it's my bad because I haven't really pushed the pageant coaching. We're getting there, right? We're getting there. I'm beginning. I needed to finish the book first. But I want you to get that this got me thinking, because I had every session was like that. I had another session with another Miss USA contestant, and she's great. She's so funny. She's unhinged, but in a good way. And I'm that way as well. That's, I told her, like, crazy recognizes crazy. It's like game recognizes game, crazy recognizes crazy. And it was so funny because she got on and she was already a little, because last minute stuff happening. You could tell that she probably hadn't got a lot of sleep. But I said to her, you sent me your video. She goes, yeah. And I said, and I got to know her a bit first because it's really important, because I'd never talked to this one before. Some of them had been my friends forever. This particular woman I'd never spoken to before. And I talked to her for a while. You don't want to just straight up say what you're thinking, because sometimes you get a misread on people. And she was saying, yeah, I'm just sort of frustrated at this moment because I'm new to pageantry. and I don't really know what I'm doing, but so many people are telling me I got to do this, and then other people telling me I got to do that. Don't do this, don't do that. And I said, and she said, I kind of felt like a month ago I went through my my midlife crisis because I just had enough, and it was so funny. And I said, you know what's really funny? You said that because I can tell you've got a lot of personality, a lot of charisma. And she said, yeah, I'm pretty unhinged. Yeah. She showed me her room, by the way. She said, the one thing you need to know about me, she said, I'm a hot mess. And I said, what do you mean? And she picked up the phone and she tilted it and she showed me her room, which looked like a bomb had hit it. Uh, but again, this is a girl who's got a great sense of humor. And I said to her, I said, you know what? I'm so glad you showed me this and you're showing me your true self because I got to say, when you showed me your video, you sent me a video, I was really confused because I was worried, not confused. I was worried because the person on the video, she's impressive, but she's really boring. I said that woman on the video needs a personality implant or a transplant or something because, and I was worried that I would get on get on the mock interview with that woman, and I had nothing to work with, nothing to say, because she would have needed a personality transplant. And, I got her laughing. And the funny thing was with her, because what I want you to get is what's in common is I need every time it's a fact finding sort of mission, every time I get on a coaching call. But that's what's in common. What's different is that the solutions are quite different. What's in common is that I try to lean into what are already your existing strengths. And I'll give you another example of this because with this woman that I was working with, I said, look, and she mentioned she'd be having frustration on Instagram, but that she much preferred TikTok. Now, if you've been around for social media for any amount of time, you know that Instagram, particularly in pageant land, tends to have to be the highlight reel, whereas TikTok, and this is what made it initially popular, was you got to be authentic, right? You got to be yourself. And I said to her, and I said, yeah, here's where the coaching came in. I said, here's what I want you to do, right? Forget the mock interview. You already have the personality to blow their socks off in the interview room. What I want you to do is bring your TikTok self to the interview room, not the Instagram self, not the LinkedIn version of yourself, not the PowerPoint presentation of yourself. I want you to bring the TikTok version of you into that interview room. And sure, you can polish it, right? Like, so you can't curse and swear because she curses and swears a bit like I do, right? So obviously you can't do that, but you can bring that slightly more unhinged, authentic, the girl that can get a laugh. Bring that person, please, into the interview room. And there was an offbeat piece of advice I gave her, and I don't know if she'll do it. I hope she does, but if it blows up, I hope she doesn't blame me. Because she said, oh, do you think I should send in another version of the video? And this was like 48 hours before she left, 72 hours before she left for Miss USA. And I said, look, I mean, you could do that because she had like a version she filmed on her mobile phone. And I said, look, here's what you can do. When you go into that room and the pageant judges have watched that video, and I said, look, if you're finding it boring and I'm finding it boring, they're probably thinking it's pretty boring too. And so they're already going to have their knives out and their question prepared, and they're going to have a prejudgment about that. Oh, this girl's impressive, but she's not relatable enough, isn't personable enough. And I said, here's what you're going to do. As soon as that video ends, because I'm assuming you're going to walk in, they'll play the video whilst you're there, and then they'll ask you the question. But I said, regardless of what happens, as soon as it ends, before they get to ask any questions, you need to quickly interject and just say, can I just say something? I want to apologize for that video because I was in a different place at that time. I'm pretty new to pageantry and I thought you needed to be a certain way. And that is me, but it's not me. So what I'd love to do in the minutes that we have is just to show you the real version of me, because what you saw, that's a part of me, but it ain't me. And you could see her because she is that side of almost unhinged and verging on, I'll dare you to do it. And then so she'll do it. And she loved that idea. Now, whether she does it or not, I don't know, right? Maybe it's not even the smart thing to do. But the point is, with all these mock interviews, they followed a very similar path of, I need to find out what's really going on before I can give you any advice. And the most valuable thing I think that I can give any client, whether it's in pageantry or anything else, any other field, is clarity. That's what I got. And it kind of hit me like a truth bomb of my own, because I got clarity that what I give my clients in these sessions is clarity. It's not the mock interview. It's clarity of you're ready. You don't need to work anymore. It's out of your control. That's scary. I get it. But now they have got clarity. It's not up to me anymore. I've done everything I can. Clarity that you do, like the imposter syndrome has served you, but you also need to be able to look in the mirror and say you're proud of yourself, right? Or it could be clarity that bring the TikTok version of you into the room, not the Instagram version. Like that's such an easy thing for her to do, rather than giving her like 5 paragraphs of coaching information. To, you know what? Bring the TikTok you into the interview room, not the Instagram you. Or whether it's just telling someone you're great, you just need to warm up. All right, clarity. Use ChatGPT. Make sure you've got the app, download it, and then whenever you want, you can get into the groove, do mock interview. And every single person was like that. Everyone had their different flavor, what clarity they needed, right? And there were different techniques used. And I was running through the transcripts and going, oh, I use this technique, use that technique there, because I had never really analyzed my coaching transcripts in that level of detail. And what they had in common was clarity. And so that's the whole point of today's video. As my cat's fur flies in front of the webcam, even though he's not here, he's here. Sometimes you don't need coaching. You don't need more coaching. What you need is clarity. And clarity can be as simple as, yes, you're heading in the right direction. Clarity very often with me, with a new client, is they want to know the lay of the land. Like, what are they getting themselves into when they enter their first pageant? Again, what is that? It's clarity. When you come to me for mock interview or interview coaching, again, the first thing I need to get with you is clarity. What it really is your struggle. Not just we're just going to practice and go through the motions. What is it that I can really help you with? And I guarantee you, it's never just the interview. It's almost always a psychological unlock. It's an understanding that the imposter syndrome has served you, or the perfectionism has served you. That's why it stays around. So you're not beating yourself up anymore, and you can accept it. You can work with it. I said to one of the girls, you'll never outrun your fear. You got to learn to dance with it. And she got that because she was a dancer. Again, I was leaning into their strength. Because she was saying, oh, I should dance a tango with it or the salsa. I said, yes, absolutely. I could see that she gets it. But again, what is that? Clarity. Clarity that you're never going to outrun fear. That fear is just a sign you're about to learn something, right? Or the clarity that girl said, it's like, where have you been all my life? And because she had so many aha moments, and you could see it in her face again, because she doesn't hide her emotions on her face. And so ironically, the clarity for me was that the biggest gift that I can give you in a session is clarity. And so moving forwards, why I'm telling you this is, I already said that it's my bad that no one really seems to know that I do coaching. Ironically, as I was about to start this, I had an email from a system that wants me to work with them, probably to provide some sort of coaching, come on as a coaching sponsor. So that is something else that I will definitely be pursuing, because I now know quite a few directors, and I really love what they stand for. It's not me using them as a connection, but I know they care about their girls, and so I want to be able to give back. I also want to be able to build my coaching business, obviously. But it's one of those situations where I really believe it's a win-win-win, because I believe I can offer something that, frankly, many other coaches don't. And that's not because they're bad; it's because they don't have that skill set, or they're not interested in it. I don't know. You'd have to ask each and every one. But the whole point is, I'm calling it like clarity conversations, because it's a conversation around clarity. And I know some of you will get it, some of you won't, and that's okay. But I always struggled knowing what to call my coaching sessions. That was like pageant consulting. I think consultants is not necessarily a good word. When you say consultants, I kind of think of people who don't know much, who are getting paid huge amounts of money for not really knowing anything. I apologize if you're a consultant, but that's immediately what comes to mind, because we had so many scandals, particularly in the financial and political world, where consultants have been paid huge amounts of money and done absolutely nothing. So like, well, it's not really consulting. But I looked at these mock interview sessions I've done, all within the last week, by the way, and all with girls competing in the biggest system, one of the biggest systems in the world, most competitive systems in the world. And I realized for each and every one of them, had gone away with clarity. I knew clarity as to who they were, what they needed to work on, if anything, but also what they were doing great already. As I said, I lean into your existing strengths because you can only build on success. And so it was really gratifying to me just over those 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 mock interviews that I could be working with women, some of whom I'd known for a long time, some of whom I'd only met as soon as I jumped on that call. And you could see them beginning to get it. And it was so much more impactful than just a mock interview. So I said to every one of them, look, I can do questions with you. And I did do questions with some of them, but it was always like, hang on, okay, so you're struggling with this question, or you're afraid of this question. Why? Because it's not enough. And I've said this many times, it's the game is about psychology. It's not about the mechanics of it. The mechanics, how you answer, that's important. But it's a psychology that you need to understand. And that's my wheelhouse. So there was another Teen USA contestant. She said she was afraid of the hard question. I said, look, I get that. But let me give you an analogy here. In math, in my exams, I always wanted the hard questions. When I'm playing in tennis, I always want to play against the best that I can. Why? Because that's a chance for me not only to prove myself and not only to improve myself, but it gives me a chance to stand out. Because if you get asked a really easy question, everyone's going to get it right. You cannot stand out. If you're a competitive person, you want to win and you're smart, you'll want the difficult question because you'll look at it rather than going, oh my God, this is a chance for me to screw up. Look at it, go, yes, this is my time to shine. And so I just gave her that analogy. And again, whether she uses or not, who knows? I only got one session with each of them. And that session that I had with her was, I think, 35 minutes. One of the other sessions went for 2 hours. It's never a given how long I'm going to be on a call with someone, with a client. But you could see that analogy got to her. It was a reframing. We call it in psychological terms, a reframing of, oh my God, a difficult question means I might screw up, to, oh, a difficult question, cool. I get a chance to show what I'm really made of. And so underlying all of it was clarity, which is why I came up with the idea, clarity conversations, because that's what I want to offer my audience moving forwards. Yes, there's the mock interview. And I asked this in my broadcast channel on Instagram, Rise and Rain. And I asked, if I was to do a giveaway, what do most people want? And I didn't put clarity conversations there because at that point I didn't know what to call them. But I put up mock interview, I put up social media audit, and I put up, how to start a podcast, how to start a book. Overwhelmingly, the two choices were mock interview and social media audit. And the winner was mock interview. And so, yes, I can absolutely do mock interview with you. Yes, I can absolutely do a social media audit. I said in last week's post, I had 1.4 million views every 30 days on my Instagram. That's probably something that could be of value to you, right? But out of all that, the most valuable thing that I can offer you is that clarity. Why? Because you don't want to do all the work and have that ladder. You don't want to be climbing up that ladder and then find out, halfway up, that ladder was leaning against the wrong wall. I mean, if you're like me and you only have a limited amount of time in your day and you're working hard on multiple things, don't you want to make sure that that ladder you're climbing, or that path you're running down, or that hill you're climbing, is actually the right hill you want to be climbing? It's not going in the wrong direction. You're not that person who's running east looking for a sunset. So it could be that sort of clarity. It could be clarity that you're going the right direction, and it's just a confirmation. Yes, you're heading in the right direction. Yes, there are going to be obstacles, but overcome them because you are headed in the right direction. Sometimes clarity can be, now's not the time for you to do a pageant. I had one of those conversations just today. And I said to this woman, I said, look, you tell me, but here's my read. This has happened, that has happened, that has happened. This director has done that, and you've seen the social media. So you tell me, you're extremely busy. Do you think this is a worthwhile investment of your time? And I could tell that the answer was no. But again, that might not be the answer that you think most people want to hear, but it is clarity. And indeed, it turned out to be the answer that she did want, because she had been thinking that herself. And so clarity can take lots of different forms, whether you're a beginner, whether you're a veteran. Beginner, it can be, hang on, yes, I'm getting into pageantry, tell me what's going on. It can be that clarity. A veteran can be someone who's just looking for that one thing that's keeping them stuck. And I've had a coaching session like this just last week, and it's really, they actually tell me they want clarity. Funnily enough, now that I think about it, she said she wanted clarity, but it can also be, I'm getting unstuck. I need to get unstuck. Or sometimes it can be, I just keep getting close to winning, but I never win. And I don't really know what it's about. I don't understand, the feedback that I'm getting, or I don't understand what's holding me back, or why am I getting this feedback? Why is someone asked me this the other, why am people saying that I sound rehearsed, or that I'm saying what the coaches, the judge, what I think the judges want to hear. And it's not enough to simply get to work on that, because you don't know what you should be working on, right? If you're a complete newbie, how are you supposed to know where to begin? Which is, by the way, why I wrote the Beginner's Guide to Pageantry, because I wanted that to be available to everyone, to give them that leg up, so they know, again, they have some level of clarity what they're getting themselves into. But if you're a veteran, and especially if you're someone who's competed, and you've never won, or you've competed, you have won, but now you've got that dream title that you've been building up towards, you want that clarity that you're heading in the right direction. And it's not just about more information. Someone needs to take time to sit down with you, understand your frustrations, what's worked in the past, what hasn't worked in the past, and then also have the intelligence to point out a solution and put that in place. Also, by the way, as I said, leaning into your existing strengths. It's like why I could say to that one Miss USA contestant, I could say, bring the TikTok version of you into the interview room. And she got that. And that's like a shortcut. I said to some of the other girls, you need to give this version of you, this, because I work with a couple of dancers, and they obviously, as a dancer, I think she would dance hip hop, and she's very confident at hip hop, but she also says she's very shy in interview. And I said, okay, give that sassy hip hop version of yourself a name. And she gave it this really made up name. She had a laugh about it. I had a laugh about it because I'd never heard that name before, and she completely made it up on the spot. I said, okay, cool. That version of you, that sassy one, that confident one, that expressive one, who always knows, if she messes up on this, and I asked her, like, if that girl messed up a dance move, what would she do? She said, oh, she'd just keep going. She has this. She's got this. I said, cool. She's got a name. Now give the nervous, neurotic, shy person in pageant interview a name. And she gave that a silly name. I said, cool. All right. Which one of these two people do you want to bring into the interview room at Miss Teen USA? Of course, she wants to bring the sassy, fiery version. So I said, that's what you got to do, right? And this is what I'm trying to point out. I don't need to give you a bullet list instruction of be confident, breathe, smile, refer to your talking points, and this and that and that. And by the time you get to the end, the interview's over and you haven't done any of it because you've been so worried about the list of things you have to do. I gave her the shortcut, right? But it was understanding. I could only give that to her because I took the time to understand where she's coming from, and I knew she already had success in other areas, and I'm kind of like importing that success from her dance, where she's so confident, into this arena where she thinks, "Oh, I'm shy, I'm nervous." I said, no. You already know how to do confidence, and if you've read my book, you'll understand what I'm talking about here. You already know how to do confidence. All you need to do is bring that version of you into the interview room, and you've got this, don't you? And I got her to play with it. I actually got her to stand up, and I said, sit down now, answer this interview question as the dancer, that sassy, fiery dancer. And she starts going on about this and this and this. And I said, stop. I stopped her halfway. I said, that's great. Now go to that nervous person who's shy and answer as her, not as you, as her. And she took a moment and she goes, and then you could see the posture just drop like this. She goes, well, I'm really passionate. I said, stop. Now go back to the sassy. This, and I said, stop, go back. And I got her to play with that. I said, okay, what can you see? Like, what are you feeling differently between that person and this person? And she gave me some great feedback. And I said, also, what you need to realize, are you seeing this versus this? And even on the web, I can see it right now. And I'm sure if you're watching this, you can see it. And again, if you're not seeing this, go to thepageantproject.com so you can watch the video. This one's free, right? This is on me. You got no excuse. But just that shoulder slump from here to there, it's not even like, is it an inch? Maybe a few degrees. But I said, this confident dancer, this not going to work. And by the way, this version of you, no matter how much training you take with expert coaches, is never going to get you anywhere, because you're accessing like 10 or 20% of your potential. When you're slumped forward, you're not breathing, you're doubting yourself, and you're telling myself, oh my God, I'm shy. I always screw up an interview. Oh, I'm a fraud. Oh, I got imposter syndrome. Oh, this is all too hard. And I'm like, of course, as that person, you can't come up with any solutions. But that never happens to you on the dance stage, right? So bring the dancer. So again, the solutions, we need to get you clarity, but then we also need to put the solutions in place to really bring it home. And that's one thing I love doing, is working with the individual in terms of what strengths do they already have, and using the successes they've already had, because remember, you can only build on success, using the successes you've already had to give you that shortcut to executing on whatever vision it is you want, or to getting whatever goal it is you want. Because my belief is every single one of you already have a certain set of strengths. You might lead with all the flaws and the weaknesses and whatnot, but every one of you has an area where you excel. It could be in dance. It could be you've done a podcast, like you created a podcast. It could be you're really creative. You could be a painter. It could be a stay-at-home mum and you're great with your kids. Whatever it is, we use those strengths. You don't need to learn something new for the most part. Of course, there's knowledge you need to learn. But what I'm saying is, when it comes to things like being confident or overcoming imposter syndrome, those things that trip all of you up, it's not the mechanics, because the mechanics are, I mean, look at weight loss, the mechanics of how to lose weight. There's so much information out there. If it was easy as the information, everyone would have a six-pack. Why don't they? Why is so much of our population overweight and unhealthy? It's because it's a psychology behind it. You got to work out, like, you got to make sure that you're aligned with your vision, so you're being pulled towards it rather than being pulled apart. And by the way, in this day, with all the social media, this, that, AI, this, that, and the news, and oh my God, the sky's falling down, everyone's getting pulled apart because they're also distracted. And so, clarity. In this day and age, especially, I just think clarity, knowing what your vision is, what your focus is, why you want it, what the obstacles are, how you're going to overcome them, how you're going to utilize your existing strengths, those sorts of shortcuts. And yeah, if we don't have the strengths or the skills we need, then we go get them, right? That's when we talk about the mechanics. How do we answer? What are you talking about? All of that. But that's the icing on the cake. It's not the cake, right? And so I haven't had time to publicize this on social media because I've done 2 interviews today. I did 2 interviews the other day, and I got an interview tomorrow, I think, as well. And I needed to do this video for you guys, and I really wanted to do this video for you guys, even though my cat was being a pain. But here's my offer. You know that every Tuesday I bring up a certain topic, and then on Thursday I'd like to go deeper on it. And if at all possible, I like to do case studies. So if you're watching this and you like the idea of having a clarity conversation, which could be like a half-hour conversation for you to get clear on, am I heading in the right direction? Or how can I overcome things that have been frustrating in my past? Or what does this feedback mean? Or what's keeping me stuck? I don't know. I go 1 step forward, 2 steps back. If I'm going to give you 24 hours, I know this sounds harsh, but I got to record the session, right? And if you're willing, again, I've done this before. So I'm willing to give away a session to one of you. You have to be willing to have the session recorded so that I can post it on Thursday. So, you don't want to delve into anything that's too personal, but if you want a clarity session, you're willing to have it recorded, then email me back, reply to this email or comment or on social media, let me know. And if we can tee up a time where you're available and I'm available for recording, then we can do that. But it's got to be in the next sort of 24 hours because the next video is going out on Thursday and it's Tuesday already, right? It's late Tuesday night for me here. The only caveat, apart from you need to be willing to have it recorded, I really want to work with someone who has a very specific area they need clarity on. Now, that could be in pageants. It could be in business. It could be on social media, right? But I don't want someone who just doesn't have clarity on what they need clarity about. You get what I mean? I don't want just someone jump on a call and have a half-hour conversation with them that doesn't go anywhere, right? This is about you getting you clarity. And the more you can tell me about what it is that you need and why you need it, the sooner I can get in there and help. Okay, so that's the only caveat. Apart from having it recorded, I really want you to have like a frustration or an area that's been holding you back. I want you to have that in mind. Message me with that area or reply to this email with that area, what you want to work on. And if we can tee up that time, we can tee up that time, and I'd love to help you. Moving forward, I will be publicizing this. And as I said, publishing the fact that I'm doing coaching more, maybe looking at working with some systems and progressing that way. I just haven't had time. And I realize I've been really bad at publicizing it. And that's my own thing to work through. Because I remember I started as the interview guy and because I wanted to know what I was talking about. But after 10 years and interviewing hundreds of you and being a trained life coach, having all the experience with tennis coaching, being an entrepreneur, all of that, and being quite a natural empath, I will say. I can read people very well, I think. All of that to say, now I think it's time to transition more into that coaching space because I really like what I'm able to offer the girls. And like when that young Teen USA contestant said, "Where have you been all my life?" That's not "Oh, I enjoyed my coaching session with you." That's me getting to see in real time that I've been able to make an impact to a young woman who herself is going to have a huge impact because that's just the sort of person she is. And I could get that from her video straight away. And so I will always do interviews because I love getting to meet you guys one on one and building my network. But the coaching is something that I'm going to be pushing more than I have in the past because I love that as well. It's like an interview because I get to ask you questions, but it's not. It's in a different way. So just bear that in mind. That'll be coming out more on social media to the public later on, probably next week at this stage, because I need to finalize some details with me, what I'm offering, how I'm going to offer it, etc., etc. But if you want to be one of the first to have one of these clarity conversations with me or get clarity for yourself, reply to this email. Let me know. Send me a message. But remember, you got to be comfortable having it recorded, and you got to give me an area that you really need clarity on. It can't just be a general, I want clarity in my life. Is it in business? Is it in your relationship? Is it in a pageant? Whatever it is. And I've worked in all those areas, by the way. I've worked in marriage counseling, believe it or not. I've worked in business for myself and for other people. And obviously, I've been in pageantry for a long time. So let me know. Respond to this email. But yeah, you don't need more coaching. You need clarity. And that's what we're talking about here.